Did you know that over 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? Most people think it's their fault, but the truth is far more shocking than you realize. When you hear that statistic, that more than 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, you might immediately think about personal mistakes. Maybe they are bad at budgeting, they spend too much on luxuries, or they simply lack financial discipline. But the reality is far deeper. Living paycheck to paycheck is not just about personal choices. It is the result of structural, psychological, and economic forces that are designed in ways that often keep people trapped. Let's start by examining wages and the cost of living. Over the last 40 to 50 years, the median wage in America has barely kept pace with inflation, and in some cases, it has stagnated entirely. Meanwhile, the cost of essentials, things like housing, healthcare, childcare, and education, has skyrocketed. To put this into perspective, imagine someone earning $50,000 per year in the 1970s. They could afford a modest home, support a family, and save a little for the future. Today, someone earning the same nominal amount struggles to cover rent in a decent neighborhood, let alone medical bills or childcare expenses. It gets even worse when you consider hidden costs. Many corporations shift a large portion of expenses onto employees. Healthcare premiums, retirement contributions, and even basic equipment or tools required for work often come directly out of a paycheck. What looks like a healthy salary on paper can already be largely consumed before it reaches the worker's bank account. Even those who are disciplined about budgeting often find that structural inflation in essentials keeps them trapped. This is one of the biggest reasons living paycheck to paycheck is so common. Next, let's talk about debt. Debt is a trap that keeps millions of Americans in perpetual financial stress. Student loans alone have created a massive burden, especially for millennials and Gen Z. Many of these students borrowed tens of thousands of dollars to attend college or graduate school, often for degrees that do not substantially increase earning potential. Then there are credit cards and other high-interest loans. Minimum payments on these cards are deliberately designed to be just high enough to keep borrowers trapped, paying interest indefinitely while principal barely decreases. Medical debt is another huge factor. Even insured Americans can face unexpected bills that reach tens of thousands of dollars after an emergency or a chronic illness. Debt is not only a personal problem, it is a systemic mechanism that ensures people work primarily to pay off past obligations rather than building financial security or wealth. But money isn't just about numbers. There is a psychological side to living paycheck to paycheck that often goes unnoticed. Constant financial stress consumes mental bandwidth. Studies have shown that scarcity, the feeling of not having enough, impairs cognitive function. This means that people who are constantly worried about money have a harder time planning for the future or making good decisions. Social media and advertising compound this problem. Everywhere we look, we are told to consume, to keep up, to maintain appearances. Scarcity and desire, when manipulated at scale, ensure that people spend even when they cannot afford it. The system preys on human psychology. The economic and corporate systems themselves reinforce this cycle. Tax policies often favor the wealthy while doing very little to improve wages for average workers. Capital gains are taxed at lower rates than ordinary income, incentivizing wealth accumulation for those who already have capital, rather than rewarding labor. Labor laws in the United States often weaken the bargaining power of employees. Union membership is low, collective bargaining is limited, and gig economy jobs are becoming increasingly common. These jobs offer flexibility but often lack benefits, job security, or retirement plans. Minimum wage has not kept pace with the real cost of living in many areas. All of these factors make it nearly impossible for the average worker to achieve financial freedom. Now, consider hidden costs that eat away at income. Housing costs are the most obvious example. Rent has increased faster than wages in nearly every major city. Healthcare, childcare, and transportation are additional pressures that consume large portions of income. Even middle-class Americans can feel trapped. Essentials often take up 70% or more of monthly income, leaving very little for savings or investments. Financial experts often tell people to save 20% of their income, but for many Americans, this is simply impossible. Financial freedom becomes a dream that seems always just out of reach. Cultural myths also play a role. Society teaches that success is purely merit-based. Work hard, and you will get ahead, they say. Budget wisely, and you will succeed. While this sounds good in theory, the reality is that systemic barriers and structural inequities prevent many people from escaping paycheck-to-paycheck living. Access to opportunities, inherited wealth, geography, education, and even luck play a far greater role than society admits. The so-called self-made American is often an illusion. Wealth is not only about effort. It is about timing, advantage, and access to resources. Job instability is another crucial factor. Even full-time jobs are no longer secure. The gig economy, while offering flexibility, rarely provides stability, benefits, or long-term security. Economic shocks such as recessions, inflation, or global crises hit those living paycheck to paycheck the hardest. One emergency, like a car repair, medical bill, or temporary loss of income, can erase months of careful planning. This constant vulnerability keeps people locked in a cycle of survival, rather than allowing them to build wealth or plan for the future. Let's also consider childcare and family responsibilities. The United States has one of the highest childcare costs in the world. Parents often spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars per month simply to ensure their children are cared for while they work. Elder care is another massive, often hidden expense. Many Americans have to care for aging parents or relatives, which can drain both time and money. These responsibilities add yet another layer of financial strain that is rarely discussed. Healthcare is another silent trap. Even people with insurance often face premiums, deductibles, and co-pays that make medical expenses devastating. A single hospital visit can wipe out an entire month's paycheck. Chronic illnesses, mental health care, and emergency procedures add up quickly. Healthcare in America is not just a personal problem. It is a systemic one that keeps millions financially vulnerable. The financial system is also designed to make it difficult to save. Banks profit from people using credit to meet basic needs. Interest rates on credit cards, payday loans, and other financial products ensure that borrowers are constantly paying more than they can afford. Meanwhile, savings accounts and investments offer minimal returns for most people, making it nearly impossible to grow wealth without taking significant risk. Even financial literacy programs often place the burden of responsibility entirely on the individual, ignoring systemic issues that prevent success. Consumer culture plays a major role. Advertisements, social media, and societal expectations constantly push people to spend beyond their means. There is immense pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle, keep up with peers, and appear successful. This pressure creates a cycle of spending that is difficult to break. Even people who understand the dangers of overconsumption can feel compelled to participate because of social norms. The result is a society where financial insecurity is normalized, even for people who appear to be doing well. Another hidden factor is geography and access to opportunities. Someone earning $50,000 per year in rural Ohio may live comfortably, while someone earning the same amount in San Francisco or New York City may struggle to pay rent. Access to high-paying jobs, quality education, and affordable housing is uneven across the country. People in disadvantaged areas are often trapped, not because of poor choices, but because the system itself limits their options. Psychology is deeply intertwined with these realities. Constant financial stress leads to a scarcity mindset, where people focus on immediate needs at the expense of long-term planning. This mindset reduces cognitive capacity, making it harder to think strategically or make decisions that could improve financial health. The emotional toll of living paycheck to paycheck, anxiety, stress, and fear, is enormous and often invisible to outsiders. Debt, stress, systemic barriers, and consumer culture all combine to create a perfect storm. Millions of Americans are working tirelessly, managing their budgets carefully, and yet still find themselves trapped in a cycle where they live paycheck to paycheck. The problem is not individual failure. It is a combination of structural inequality, economic design, social pressure, and psychological strain. Financial freedom is possible, but it requires more than just working hard or budgeting. It requires understanding the forces at play, navigating the traps built into the system, and leveraging any advantages one can find. It requires long-term strategic thinking, careful planning, and sometimes significant sacrifices. Most importantly, It requires recognizing that living paycheck to paycheck is not a personal failure. It is the result of a system designed to extract labor and consumption while limiting upward mobility. The truth is uncomfortable. Most people assume they are failing when they are doing everything right. They budget, they work overtime, they save when they can. And yet, the system keeps them trapped. Understanding the forces that maintain this cycle is the first step toward breaking free. Knowledge is power, and recognizing that the problem is larger than personal choices can shift how we approach our finances and our lives. Paycheck to paycheck living is not inevitable, but it is common because the odds are stacked against most Americans. Structural inequality, debt, consumer culture, healthcare costs, housing expenses, job insecurity, and hidden systemic barriers all contribute to this reality. The more we understand these forces, the better we can strategize to escape the cycle. The system is challenging, but it is not insurmountable. Financial education, awareness of hidden costs, strategic career moves, smart debt management, and disciplined spending are all tools that can help. But even these require navigating a system that is often stacked against the average worker. Breaking free from paycheck to paycheck living requires persistence, planning, and an understanding of the structural realities at play. In the end, living paycheck to paycheck is not about failure. It is about survival within a system that often makes survival difficult. The cycle is complex, and the reasons people are trapped are layered and interconnected. From wages that fail to match the cost of living to the psychological effects of scarcity, from debt traps to hidden costs and systemic inequality. The factors are numerous and intertwined. Recognizing this complexity is the first step toward true financial awareness. The truth is uncomfortable. Most people think they are failing, but the system is rigged. Understanding it is the first step toward breaking free. Knowledge is your power, awareness is your strategy, and action is your freedom. If this video gave you a new perspective on why so many Americans live paycheck to paycheck, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more insights that can change how you think about money and financial freedom.